I recently went on a trip to Bath, England, and spent a week dressed in Regency era clothing. It's really fun to try out different historic periods, and the Regency era is one that I actually haven't really explored much. So doing a whole week in Regency era clothing was definitely out of my comfort zone and trying something new, which is always super fun. Now, what got me, someone who's into more medieval inspired stuff, Renaissance stuff, fantasy stuff, into Regency? Well, it was really a combination of things. There was Bridgerton. Bridgerton kind of won me over because they have more of like that fantasy evening wear aesthetic. So Gigi, within Costumers of Color, organized a trip for a Regency era week in Bath, England. And so it's really Gigi's fault that I got into Regency. So thanks, Gigi. So what is the Regency era? The Regency era typically refers to the regency of King George III in England. This is from 1811 to 1820, so that is when his son was the Prince Regent. He was having some health issues, and so we ended up having a Regency period over there in England. However, when we talk about Regency period, we're typically also referring to starting in like 1795 all the way through, sometimes up into the 1830s even. Now, this also coincides with a more worldwide, or I would say Europe-wide, era known as the Empire era of Napoleon. The Napoleonic era was from 1799 to 1815, so you can see it definitely overlaps. And in fact, whenever I've been exposed to this era before, because I have very little connection with England personally, most of my friends in Europe refer to it as the Empire era because that's what they know it as. So whether it's Empire or Regency, it's fine, it's the same era. We're in England for this, so we are calling it the Regency era. Now there's lots of cool history and information that you can learn about. I love learning about history of different eras, but my favorite thing is fashion. A big surprise. You're on a costuming/fashion channel. Who would have thought? My favorite is fashion. So let's go over how I dressed for a week in the Regency era in Bath, England. So we went on this trip with Costumers of Color. There were 5 of us, lovely Regency ladies. We stayed in an old townhouse similar to what Jane Austen or others would have stayed in the Regency time frame, and it was so gorgeous. It was 3 stories, and each story only has a couple of rooms, so it's very tall, so that's kind of the thing with townhouses, you can put a bunch of them together. And it was so great. It was decorated, just really putting you in the feel of that era. It's the first time that I've stayed in such a establishment, and it was really cool to do this on a girls trip with 5 ladies who are just hanging out, and all of us put together really cool Regency wardrobes. So I'm going to show you. We did 6 outfits, and I did mine as sort of a capsule wardrobe. So there's 6 different outfits, but there are some key pieces that are seen over and over again from outfit to outfit. Now, guys, I know this video has been a long time coming, and that is because things have shifted a bit in my life and in my schedule, and I just haven't had as much time as I used to film videos. That is in fact something that I will be addressing in another video. So I'm working on solutions and how I can offer my time and advice and expertise to all of you in ways that might work a little bit better in my schedule. So I may be focusing a little less on YouTube videos, which take me a lot of time and energy to edit, and a little more on some other ways. So stay tuned. I will be coming back on the channel with an update on how you can find some other resources and how we can find solutions that will work for all of us when I don't have quite as much time to film as I used to. When researching this era, there are a lot of sources out there. Some of my favorites that I used were, number 1, my friends who have done Regency era before. Number 2, I always go to Janet Arnold because I know patterns of fashion and I have all of them. Number 3, Prior Attire, Isabella Pritchard, has a great book on Regency era clothing. And so I looked in that to get some ideas. 4 is theatrical books. So the Regency era is well represented in theater, so there are a lot of solutions that theatrical costumers have come up with over the years. Number 5 is there are a few good simplicity patterns, actually. There's an American Duchess one, there's a couple of other ones, and these are pretty good resources too. They're actually really good. Oh, another resource is Black Snail Patterns. They have a couple of really good Regency ones. And also, most importantly, fashion plates from the era. There's so many digitized, like you don't have to guess at all. You can just see all these different styles, so you can have tons of inspiration that way. The first day that we were there, we had kind of a casual day, and then we got dressed in our Regency attire for a dinner. My first dress consists of, first of all, there's some kind of chemise or shift underneath everything. So I had a sleeveless shift. I also actually made do with a few white tank tops that kind of stood in for extra chemises, and they work great too. So I made a boned petticoat slash bodice. So you would see corsets in the Regency era that were typically short stays. There could be long ones too, but this is a solution that I gleaned from other people who have done Regency era before. And it kind of goes along with other stuff I've done too. Like it's a common theatrical solution as well as historical. So the bodice is boned and structured. So there's a full like canvas interlining, there's boning in the bodice, and it is supportive. And then the petticoat or the skirt is attached to the bodice. So it's one garment that has your corset and petticoat attached in it. This is something that is historic. It is also theatrical, and it is the easiest method, much easier than having a separate bodice and petticoat, right? Because it's only one garment to put on. So the first dress that I'm wearing as a base dress is actually from Amazon, of all places. Amazon has some pretty good costuming stuff now. This is a cotton dress. It's pretty comfortable, and it's a great base layer for Regency. What goes on top of this is a Spencer jacket that I did create. This is a velvet material. It's a cotton velvet. And I made this using a black snail pattern. For our second day in the Regency era, I'm doing the same base undergarments as before, so that's going to be the same in every outfit. This time I'm wearing a red gown that I made for more of an evening wear look. So this one was really cool. I actually used a red cotton material that I had on hand and a red chiffon that I also had on hand. So I did not buy any fabric for this dress. Amazing. I mean, technically I bought it before, but I didn't have to buy it right now. So for this dress, there's a Simplicity American Duchess pattern that has this basic shape. However, to make it the shape I was going for, I kind of used it as a guide and then sort of redrafted to fit me. So for example, the bust is very small in that pattern because that's the style. I like things to fit my underbust, so I kind of redid the shaping of that so that it was the size of my full bust. But other than that, the pattern is pretty close to it. I did also do a different sleeve, so I did like a puffed sleeve that's just kind of a standard puffed sleeve for this dress. And this one ties across the top and the bottom of the bust with drawstrings. Now for this look, I have a sleeveless Spencer vest that goes over it. And again, I used leftover fabrics for this, so I really didn't buy any fabrics for this one at all. These are fabrics that I bought for another project and they were just scraps that were left over. So we're going to count them as a $0 investment for this entire dress. Now the next dress is, again, the same base undergarments. Here I'm wearing a white dress that I made using one of the other Simplicity patterns. I like this style a lot because it's flatter in the front, and one of the things that I've always been nervous about wearing Regency clothing is that it's very big, like coming down below the bust, and since my bust is kind of one of my larger measurements, I don't necessarily like to look large all over. Like I like to have something a little more fitted below the bust because my waist is also very small. So this is kind of a good middle ground. It's a little more fitted, a little bit more my style. I like it. Now over this, I'm wearing a wrap dress. This wrap dress was largely inspired by what Prior Attire has in her book. So she has a wrap dress that she did in there and it looks really nice. It's really comfy. I had this fabric that was perfect for it. It was like not quite enough fabric, so it would have been a little bit too short, but I fixed that by putting a velvet trim all around the hem of the dress and the front opening. And so I think it came out really nice. I actually think it's super comfy. Also for this dress, I made a little beret out of a scrap I had of velvet. We wore this set of outfits the day that we played croquet. So we all learned how to play and we had such a fun time playing croquet in our Regency dresses. outfit number 4 is once again the same undergarments and that same white dress that's a little more fitted in front. This was a day that we walked around during the daytime and we went to a few museums. So it was important to have a less hot outfit because it was kind of a warm day. So I wore this sleeveless vest that I created, and this is again like based on some of the Simplicity Patterns bodices, just kind of as a base, but there isn't one that's exactly like this. So what I did was kind of look at how things were patterned and kind of take that and create this out of it. It's a really nice addition to the dress. It adds a little something to it without being super hot. So it was perfect for this kind of walking around day. The next dress you guys have already seen because I have a whole video about making my pelisse. So we have the same base garments once again. What goes on top is the gorgeous pelisse from my last video. This is also a dress that's a little more fitted in the front, so it has like that flat front and the gathers are all in the back. I think that style is a little more flattering for me than some of the more gathered in front ones. And also the bodice goes down a little bit lower, so this pelisse, because it's long sleeved, is a little bit warmer, but that's okay. I definitely made do. Now this day was super fun because several more ladies met up with us who are actually local to England. So they came over to Bath and we had like a really fun extra large group that day. And it was just really a special day. For my final look, this was for a fancy dinner. I wore the same red gown that I wore before, so that's my one evening dress. And then over it is an overlay. So this overlay was actually a whole dress that I thrifted, and I cut the dress up and used the skirt of the dress to create this overlay. This is something that we see in a lot of the Napoleonic court gowns, and a style that I find to be so lovely. Also for this gown, I spent nothing in the moment and next to nothing overall because the thrifted dress was extremely cheap. And I used some velvet ribbon to create the suspender strap portion. And I had bought the velvet ribbon for another project, and I bought it in quantity because it was cheaper than buying the amount I needed. That happens frequently. So it was another free dress. I spent very little on this wardrobe. But don't worry, I made up for the lack of amount of money I spent on the wardrobe by the amount of money I spent going to Bath, England, and buying fancy dinners. In fact, on this trip, I had the fanciest dinners of my life. Like, I had some pretty regular dinners too, but 2 of the dinners were so fancy. Like, the first time that we went to a fancy dinner in the red dress, I literally was telling them, I was like, this is the fanciest place I've ever been in my life. Like, it was amazing. I was like, why am I even here? Like, this is nuts. It's so amazing. And the other time that I wore the red dress for dinner as well, it was like this floral botanical, like kind of an alchemy theme place. It even had a math wall, which was obviously there for me. If you guys don't know, math is the best subject, obviously. It's really cool being a part of this group and traveling with my friends. I've actually never done a trip anything like this before. So I've never done like an international girls trip with like a bunch of other ladies who are into costuming like I am. So overall, a really fun trip, and I had a great time taking a journey into the Regency era for a whole week. Thank you for waiting so long for me to edit this video. I will come back soon with an update on what I'm going to do moving forward since I have to sort of readjust my time and schedule. As always, you can find me on all the social medias as Daisy Victoria. My website is daisyvictoria.com. You can find tutorials and patterns and all kinds of digital goodies there as well. You can find me on Patreon, where I will probably be making some updates to the tiers to better support my current time, and I probably will actually be able to offer a little bit more over there as I funnel some of the YouTube time into different areas. So yeah, stay tuned for the updates. We'll get it all figured out. I hope you guys have an absolutely magical day, whether you're in the Regency era or a different one. And I will see you again real soon. Bye-bye.